Alex, last Friday you talked about your game, Pantheon, so I thought that this Friday I would discuss my game, which is currently under the working title, Business Time. In its most basic terms, Business Time is going to be a power structure simulator, where each player is going to play as the head of a business, hiring employees, and then building sort of a power structure beneath themselves. The game is divided into essentially two decks of cards. One deck of cards is the employee cards, and the other deck of cards is the market cards. Now the employee cards are pretty obvious. They're the employees that you're going to hire to be in your company, whereas the market cards simulate the demand for certain products. So the way you play the game is the first player draws 3 cards from the top of the employee deck. Now they get to choose one of those cards to be in their power structure, and the other 2 cards go into the center table as a pool of available candidates for the other players to choose from. Now the next player draws an additional card off the top of the pile, and they can either choose to take this card or one of the 2 cards that's in the center table. Now play proceeds like this until each player has 5 employees in their power structure, at which point a market card is flipped, displaying what commodity is really valuable during this turn. Now in this game there are 4 commodities: dowels, cogs, beams, and wires. So the market card can have any individual one of these on it. So maybe in this round, only cogs are worth anything. And as such, players will have to arrange their employees in order to maximize the production of cogs. Another possibility is that a market card will have multiple widget types on it. So maybe this turn, both cogs and dowels are worth something. When a card comes up that says you can make either cogs or dowels, the player needs to decide which one of those they want to go for, and then set up their entire structure to manufacture just one of those widget varieties. So the winner of the round is whoever can make the most of whatever widget is valuable during that turn. So if only cogs are on the market card, whoever makes the most cogs wins. Now if the market card shows both dowels and cogs, it's whoever makes the most of either of those. So if I made 12 dowels and you made 18 cogs, you would win the round because you made more total widgets than I did. So now the question comes down to, how do you make your power structure? So each employee card can have leadership stats and they can have subordinate stats. Leadership stats include the number of subordinates the employee can handle, as well as any bonuses to production for their subordinates. So for instance, a leader could have 4 subordinates and have +1 to the production of beams. So that means that they can have 4 people working below them, and those 4 people will each make 1 additional beam above whatever it is they can make normally. Now subordinate cards, they just say how many and what types of widgets they can make. So a subordinate with 2 on their card would be able to make 2 widgets per round. And then there would be icons depicting which widget varieties they'll be able to make. So one employee may be able to make all the widget types. So that's valuable because you don't know what's going to show up on the market card. They can make all varieties of them. But maybe they can only make 1 widget per turn. But you might want to roll the dice for an employee who can make 3 cogs, because if a cog card is flipped, they'll be a very, very valuable employee in making those cogs. Further, some employees will have both leadership stats and subordinate stats. So you'll have to decide whether you want them in a managerial role or you want them in a subordinate role. So for the first round, you only get 5 employees to make your power structure, and whoever can make whatever widget is valuable that turn gets the market card as a point. So whoever gets the most points in a predefined time period wins the game, or maybe you can set a number of points you want to play to. So after you play around and somebody has made the most widgets for that market card and they've gotten that point, play continues and you draw more employees to add to those you already have. So as play progresses, you'll get more employees and your power structure will become even deeper. As such, you'll have to try and balance your employees even more because you'll have to figure who is better suited to be a manager and who is better suited to be a subordinate. So now we've discussed subordinates, leaders, and how the game is generally played. But in a real-world manufacturing plant, you don't just have subordinates and leaders. You also have people who work in the office and who do other kinds of jobs. So for that, there will be special effects on some subordinates and some leaders. So for instance, if you have an HR department, that means you can draw additional cards off the top of the deck at the start of your turn in order to have a wider variety of employees to choose from. Now that HR person doesn't give you any widgets, but it gives you the opportunity to get better employees than your opponents. Or you can have a market specialist who looks at market cards at the top of the deck. So so that you have the advantage when you're picking your employees because you know what is going to be valuable during that turn. So in essence, you have to balance your special effect employees versus your employees who actually make the products and the employees who will supervise those lower tiered employees. Now that's not all. Alex and I were discussing that in the real world we also have a lot of contractors involved in manufacturing. Now these contractors will be cards that are even better than the normal cards. The problem is that contractors will only stay for one round. So if you choose to have them in your power structure, they're really good for the short term, but once that round is over, you lose them, and you'll actually be down an employee in comparison to all of your opponents. So sadly this game is not as refined as Alex's is. It has yet to be play tested, although I'm hoping to play test it next Friday, and I need to make a few more cards in order to facilitate this play testing. But if anybody has any ideas for any specific effects you think would be good for cards, or any specific jobs that you know of that are in the real world that you would like to see represented in the cards, just leave us a comment below, or you can leave us a message on Twitter, and I'll try and include those into the game. So that's a crash course on business time, hopefully coming to a Kickstarter near you, or maybe as a tag along for Alex's Kickstarter for Pantheon, which is well on its way to being a Kickstarter campaign. So Alex, that's a crash course to my project. I hope things are going well with yours, and I will see you on Monday.